Hey guys, as requested, I'm going to be reviewing a video about unschooling your children.
School, homework, detention, swirlies. There are lots of reasons why someone may not want to put their kids in a typical schooling environment. And there are lots of reasons why kids
Schools are a prison for children, nothing else.
themselves hate school, especially if they live in the US. Maybe not the worst education system in the world, but we sure are gunning for it. For all those reasons, it can make sense that someone may want to try out alternative schooling methods. The most popular being probably online schooling, which is something that a lot of people became familiar with in 2020. With online assignments and Zoom classes, it makes pretending to do algebra while playing Animal Crossing much easier. Then of course you have homeschooling, where your parents get to decide whether you're a dumb kid with no friends or a smart kid with no friends. But
She's saying that you won't have any friends if you don't go to school. Firstly, it's not as if you really actually have friends just because you meet random people at the prison. Secondly, you can easily go outside just like any kid and socialize with other children. Why would you not have friends if you don't go to school? That's a stupid argument.
Recently I found out there's a third option.
So we don't teach our children anything. Everything that they learn.
Of course, she takes her as an example because she doesn't appear to be credible because of those tattoos, especially the face tattoos. But what she said isn't exactly wrong. If she's referring to not forcing your children to learn anything, without exaggerating, 95% of what I learned in school was useless. I never needed it in my life. It was super boring. I hated being there because of how useless it was. 95% of what the teachers told me was pointless, and I knew it back then. I even told the teachers actually that I know that I will never need any of this, especially when it comes to mathematics. It was the most useless subject there was. History also. The history is fake anyway. The victors write the history. Who cares what they write?
In response to either their interests or their questions. We have no curriculum, we have no...
Yes, exactly. You should respond to what they are interested in. In nature, you would teach your children how to survive. Nowadays, you can argue that that's not really necessary, although I believe that every child, human in general, should learn about this.
No school hours. We really just respond whenever they want to know something and do our best to make sure they...
Yes, exactly. You respond to the natural curiosity of children. If they are not interested in math, then they should not learn it. You don't need to understand how to combine man-made symbols on a man-made paper. It's completely meaningless. It's incredibly boring for a human being in general because it's just so unnatural. It's so meaningless.
Really get it.
Free schooling or unschooling is like a branch of homeschooling minus the schooling. This website says it's an educational philosophy that relies on a kid's innate curiosity and desire to learn. In families that practice unschooling, students do not attend school and do not follow any set homeschool curriculum. So they typically don't have any courses. They just go about their day, and if the kid happens to ask a question like, hey, what's math? Then the parent would explain it and try to teach in the moment, which relies on the kid to ask...
Yes, but the kid doesn't want to learn math. Anyway, it seems like a great way to school your children. It seems pretty natural, actually. Great. If any parents like this are watching this video, I salute you.
Really good, insightful questions all the time, which they usually do. Mom, why is my booger purple? Also, during which year did the French Revolution end? And she goes on to...
Yeah, except that no kid on Earth and no adult on Earth cares about the French Revolution. Naturally, there is no history, there is no past or future. Humans only live in the moment. And again, seeing as the victors write the history, even if you are curious about it, you're going to be reading lies anyway.
Show us an example of the unschooling her son has been doing.
My son's 6, and it took some patience and not comparing myself to other moms, but this is his book. Look at this. Lamp, egg, jar, lion. This is him doing this by himself.
So her son is 6 years old, and this is seemingly the first time he's ever written words down. All of the top comments are pointing out that this isn't very advanced for a 6-year-old.
Yes, and what does it matter? Wait, let's go back to the comments, we'll see what they say. This is such a disservice to the child, holy hell. He should be further than this at 6. Further at reading and writing man-made symbols, which no human being in nature does, that's a disservice? Why? Why would a human need to do it at all? I get it that in the slave system, you need to do it sort of to survive, although you don't really, but it's easier to be able to read and write. But naturally, no purpose whatsoever. Doesn't have anything to do with a natural life. You're crippling your children. That's crazy exaggerated. Crippling. You can't use that word whatsoever in this case. It's fine if you want to keep them ignorant and at home forever. Personally, I want better for my kids. You want better by sending them to prison. Nice. This isn't free learning or unschooling. It's just neglect. I don't know what she means or he. Why public education may not be the answer. You gotta do better than this. This is such a disservice to your kids. Son, egg, you look how bright my son is. She's simply showing you that he did it out of his own interest. Maybe he watched TV or whatever. He saw the word and he wrote it himself. That's really her point. Man, that's impressive. Imagine he would be capable of. If he was given the opportunity of being taught by professionals who brainwash your children and make them sit in a chair for whatever, 7, 8, 9 hours a day, depending on which country you're in. In some places, it's even worse. You destroy your back, you become an obedient slave who listens to authority. You learn something that you will never need in your life, just so that you can never think for yourself again. Because if you keep listening and repeating, and just listening to authority, then you can't think for yourself whatsoever anymore. Because anytime you question your teacher, she or he will tell you to shut up because they know the best. Whereas a teacher should be telling the children to always question them because they may be wrong. But they say the so-called opposite of that. They always tell them to just listen and repeat. It's horrible. School is horrible for so many different reasons.
Out that this isn't very advanced for a 6-year-old, and I don't have a way to gauge whether it is or not, so I asked my mom, who homeschooled 5 kids. She said, well, there are way too many factors to consider. Are they a first child?
Now that I think about it, at 6, I must have still been in kindergarten, most likely. Then I started going to school, and we didn't learn how to write and read in kindergarten. I don't know if that's what they do in kindergartens today, but we didn't do that whatsoever. We just played all day, basically. Yeah. I'm sure that that's how kindergartens used to be a few decades ago. Which means that I didn't know how to write any kind of word at all when I was 6, 7. That was normal in Eastern Europe. Nobody there learned anything up until they start going to school. Yeah, then you start learning how to write and read.
Well, mom, is their birthday at the end of the year? Then wrong there.
I'm just saying, that kid actually could write better than me because I didn't write anything whatsoever until I started going to school. Didn't change anything about my life. What does it matter? As far as I remember, I was a pretty super happy kid. My life was great.
My big fear about free schooling was that if my kids only went towards what they were interested in, saving all of their real estate only for things they're interested in, not cramming it with anything necessary, I was concerned that they would never be interested in things like reading and writing and math.
To counter this fear, have you tried teaching them reading and writing and math? It's really good for kids to learn at this age, and he clearly wants to. If you don't make an actual plan to educate them now, this is the level that they're going to stay at. The motivation is only going to decrease. Hey, Timmy, you want to learn about the alphabet now? Timmy, it's not cute anymore.
Yes, exactly, because you need to force the children at a young age to learn that, because naturally no human has an interest in learning how to write and read man-made letters, these symbols. You have to force everybody. It's impossible for you to naturally have any interest whatsoever in man-made symbols. It's just impossible because of how unnatural it is. Just because no human in nature writes or reads.
Mom, what's 7 plus 5? It will come at the right time.
Why does she pause like this? The stare that she does is so scary. If my mom looked at me like this after I asked a math question, I would never ask one again. But maybe this is a one-off. Maybe she was just really excited, and typically she does turn questions like this into a teaching moment.
When you say that somebody's bad energy and you don't like them because they're bad energy, what you're really saying is that they remind you of yourself.
What if that was a teaching moment? What if they were about to ask what trigonometry is? While she doesn't push her kids to learn things like reading and writing, she does make sure to give lessons on the really essential things.
There was a god named Kronos, and he was so afraid that one of his babies was going to take over his kingdom that he said, every time one of my sons is born, I'm going to eat that. I'm going to eat my own son.
Learning the ABC. No, we're too busy learning about cannibalistic deities. It's more important, and Kronos is really cool. He kinda aged. The child is asking questions here, but mostly because he doesn't know what the fuck is going on.
Why is he gonna eat his own chore?
Because that's the nature of chronological or Chronos time.
Ma'am, this child is not learning anything from what you just said. Even if this kid understood what that answer meant, it wouldn't be an answer, because her answer was just, that's just the nature of chronological time. Just because it does, that's how it is. You can tell he's completely lost, but it doesn't matter.
Day one of unschooling, and I've got my kids helping me to clean the car out, teaching them hard work, taking care of the things that you love, that you need, but also doing the car clean.
Oh, so like chores. You're educating them by having them do regular house chores. You can't claim that.
Technically, though, that's a lot more normal. If you would need to take care of your shelter in nature, then of course the children would help. And children in general really like to do that. More so girls, from my experience, they always love to help with making things tidy, cleaning up. It's just something naturally in them that wants to do it. It's just my experience.
She also claims that going to the grocery store qualifies as an unschooling lesson.
Now they're going to go grocery shopping with me, and we're going to learn about reading labels. We're going to learn about math and money. When you're buying groceries, you need to make sure that the quality of it is good. So turn it over. See the prices on them right here? You typically want to make sure that you pick the lowest price.
These are just regular life skills that you should be teaching your kid, whether they're...
It's as if she's teaching them how to survive in the slave system. Still, a lot more useful than anything you learn in school. It's pretty cool that they can do this. I assume that it's in the US. Great. In most countries on Earth, I don't think that this is possible.
Schooling or not. And how many times can a trip to the grocery store count as school? Because after a few, they're probably good to go, right? And next we have Timothy, graduating with a bachelor's in putting things in the cart and a minor in not buying rotten strawberries. Thank you. They said I couldn't do it. F the hate. Okay, so first we're gonna go to the park, okay? And then we're gonna go to the swimming pool, and we'll do I'm not done. Then we're gonna go to the grocery store and buy 500,000 go-gurts. How is that school? It's math, bitch. Another concern people had with her unschooling was her kids losing the socialization they get at school. And her response was, oh, they don't need that actually.
We don't actually need socialization skills. We need to know how to communicate, which you can do with your parents. We need to...
What are socialization skills anyway? You naturally interact with other humans the way you naturally want to, without being conditioned. You don't need to learn how to connect to other human beings. Does any animal need to go to school to learn how to connect, how to mate, and so on? No, you exactly know how to naturally do it. What she means is probably how to be fake, how to act around people, and that's what Americans do the best on this earth. Americans are the fakest, most two-faced people on earth. It's really disgusting to be around them. I have some experience. I've been to the US and I've never met such fake people. They literally, it's just a smile on their faces is so fake, and they look at you, say one thing, and then always talk behind your back and say something else. They can never speak the truth. It's just so crazy. It's the craziest people, but that's what they learn, probably in school, I suppose. Maybe you're going to be way better off if you don't go to school in the US. Maybe you won't be as fake then.
To know how to connect, which you can do with your parents. And those are skills that you take for the rest of your life to make friendships.
All of the things she's listing are things you learn from socializing. We don't actually need socialization. We need to know how to socialize, how to be social, how to interact with people socially in a social way. Her argument...
Yes, exactly. I knew it. She means how to be fake in society. Society doesn't exist. is just a belief idea in your head. And to be social and to socialize, I also used the word before, I just meant interactions. You need to be fake because society is fake. It has nothing to do with the way human beings interact naturally, which is why you need to learn how to be social, right? Because otherwise you're antisocial, which is natural, and that you don't want to be.
It's kind of that you can get all the socialization you need from your parents and don't need to hang out with kids your age. And she believes that going to...
What are you talking about? Naturally, people have 10 to 20 children. Those are your best friends anyway, your family. She's talking about some families who have 1 or 2 children, and then she believes that you need to go to school to meet other children, which isn't even true anyway. There's children all around you in your neighborhood. Why would you need to go to school specifically to meet them?
The grocery store is also a form of socialization.
There's so many ways you could teach your child how to be social. Take them on grocery shopping trips. Take them to go to the zoo and teach them how to talk to people. Lead by example.
I had no idea that going to the grocery
Yeah, or go to a playground. It's also full of kids.
Store was so beneficial. It's a math lesson. It's a social visit. It's kind of a one-stop shop, I guess.
When you send your kid to a classroom for 8 hours a day, that is outside influences impacting your child, because what they're going to learn isn't just coming from you. Beliefs that they're going to have aren't just coming from you.
Isn't that
Yes, exactly. Everything that you learn as a child should come from your parents, your family as a whole. Of course, the parents of today also only learn garbage because they are influenced by society just like everybody else. But naturally, that's how it should be. Nobody else should be teaching your kids anything.
good thing though? Your kid shouldn't only believe and think things that you think. Shouldn't they get a bunch of different opinions and beliefs from people and get a variety of perspectives? If your idea of
None of the beliefs are relevant if she's talking about the subjects that you learn about in school, or specifically history, of course, which is again simply beliefs. It's literally only 100% beliefs that you learn in history lessons. It's not as if they have any actual impact on your life. It's just meaningless. Most of what you will learn from other children is also going to be meaningless. There is, of course, a legit point to getting different kind of perspectives, opinions, and beliefs from different people and then forming your own beliefs, sure.
Schooling is making sure that your kid thinks exactly like you. That sounds less like education and more like conditioning. And unschooling is...
That's literally what they do in school. I'm sure that the parents at home at least allow the children to question them, whereas in school you're not allowed to question anything.
Supposed to be about specializing your kids' education based on their specific ideas and interests. You can't tailor education to an individual if you don't see them as an individual. Also, the successful business she keeps referring to is a pyramid scheme.
I'm very proactive inside of my profession and my career of being an entrepreneur. They're likely going to follow that path because they're going to see how successful.
So, at least she can teach them shapes. A little bit of this reminds me of how I was raised. Again, I was homeschooled. You probably didn't know that. Just kidding. It's probably the only thing you know about me. Sorry, okay? Sorry I'm so mysterious and suave. Sorry I'm so shampoo-coated. But my homeschooling wasn't really in an attempt to make me more prepared for the world or because I couldn't necessarily handle a typical school environment. It was more because normal kids are secular and besties with Satan. Sometimes they say things like, hey, you should smoke this, or fart, and both of those are equally as bad. The sole reason for my being homeschooled was religion and being able to limit the amount of interaction I had with the outside world, whether it be people or media. I wasn't allowed to watch PG-13 movies until I was 22. Just imagine being told you're not allowed to watch Jumanji, the Kevin Hart one, as a tax-paying citizen. And I think I would be better at a lot of...
That's good. Children should not watch any of that garbage. Anything that comes from Hollywood.
Things if I'd been able to interact with people my age before I was basically in my 20s. I missed out on a lot of skills like how to interact with people, how to not perceive every human being as a potential threat, how to order a milkshake at Sonic without breaking down in tears.
Yeah, that's stupid if you were completely isolated, but you shouldn't assume that that's going to be the case for them.
Your kids and making yourself the only presence in their life is probably less about what's good for them and more about what's good for you. And it's completely normal to have anxieties about where your kids are or how outside sources are going to affect them, but that doesn't mean that you should stop them from interacting with outside sources at all. That just sounds like you have anxieties that are being passed down to the next generation, like an heirloom, like a little apprehensive piece of furniture. You okay, man? Yeah, just some chest pain. And I'm not saying you shouldn't homeschool your kids or do alternative schooling, because I'm sure a lot of kids would benefit from something like that, but just don't do it bad. Just do it good. Otherwise, your kid's going to end up like me in 20 years. And you don't want that. That is a threat. Anyway, guys, I gotta go to the grocery store.
90% of her points were incorrect, but it's most likely because she was homeschooled herself because of religion, and she had a traumatic experience, and now she believes that because you unschool your children, they will all have the same kind of traumatic experience, which is not the case whatsoever. For every child on earth, it would be way better not to go to school. Obviously, come on. Everybody hates going to school. Some people maybe have a super horrible upbringing. Their parents are abusive, which is why school is an escape from the house. But that doesn't mean that the school is good. School is also, of course, traumatic. At the very least, slightly abusive towards children, obviously, seeing as it's slavery. But that doesn't mean that school in general is good. Obviously, it just means that there's other problems which are going on in your life. It's the parents' fault then. But overall, if you have a happy childhood, then you will always want to be with your parents. In nature, you're always with your family. And you couldn't even not be, because it would be dangerous for you to be alone, which is why you would always need to sleep with your family together, your parents, siblings, everybody. That's just how people always used to grow up until very recently. It really kind of only changed 100 years ago in Europe, the United States. In other countries, it's still like that, which would be considered to be more primitive countries, which is, of course, seen as a bad word today, but that's actually the right way to grow up. It's the right way to live in general. Primitive food is also the best food, and so on. Everything that's primitive is always better in every way, and not sending your children to school and letting them grow up primitively, so to speak, is the best kind of upbringing a child could possibly have, because it means that they will feel like they are loved, they won't feel this abuse from school, possibly also from the children around them, but most definitely from the teachers. Teachers are always abusive. They have to be, because they are part of the authoritarian system. It's just how they have been educated. They always talk down to children. They always talk as if they are something better. There's no way to ever feel good in school just because of the teachers alone. Realistically, if you live in the slave system, teaching your children how to write and read is important, unfortunately. But teaching your children about history is completely pointless. Math, maybe how to do very simple basic math. That's about it. Everything else, only if they are interested. You can show them some kind of videos, something that's actually somewhat educational when it comes to biology, chemistry, and then they can see if they are interested in that. That's okay. But if they are not, then you just leave out those topics. Whereas in school, we get forced to learn this, because otherwise we fail, we get bad grades. And if we get bad grades, then we have to repeat a year, for example. Nobody wants to be in a prison for another year. It's basically blackmailing that's happening in school, which is why you try to memorize. And that's all that you do anyway. You memorize what they teach you, and then you repeat it, and then you succeed at a test, and then you believe that you're smart, even though you're incredibly stupid for falling for that. People actually go through the school system believing that they are smart. That already proves how dumb people are today. Thanks for watching.